Hi, my Art 2 kids. I hope that you are all doing well. And I'm going to show you a little demonstration today about how to do some charcoals. And I'm having some severe technical difficulties. You guys would like totally laugh when you see what I'm doing here. I have my phone. I brought my document camera home with me so I can do these type of demonstrations, but the software is not wanting to connect to my computer, and so I literally have I'm recording from my phone onto YouTube. I have my phone taped to my document camera, so very Mrs. Steinbach like. So when we left, we were actually going to do a white charcoal drawing. You were literally in the beginning phases of pick out your animal. You maybe had time to start drawing it, but many of you didn't. You just literally got your animals picked out, and then we printed off some pictures for you, and we printed them off in black and white. Now, I'm going to show you some things with charcoal. That's what I normally would do, and then I would show you how we would blend things in with the white charcoal too. So what I'm going to do is I have a piece of black paper here, and I'm just going to take a piece of paper. This is actually literally a sketchbook that I grabbed from school, a blank one. Charcoal, we've talked in Art 1, we talked about how there's different pencils. This one is a 4B charcoal pencil. Okay, you can see it looks just like a pencil. So the higher up the B, the softer it is and the darker it is. So we have a HB. HB is like your normal, regular, like pencil, number 2 pencil that you would buy and work with at school. So 4B is going to be darker. A lot of times we have a 6B. Here's a 6B, so this would be even darker yet. And then sometimes, especially in pencils, we go into like the 2 H's. So I grabbed a few different pencils at school too. We have a 2H. Our HB would be here, our normal pencil. Our 4B would be darker, and our 6B would be naturally even darker. So here's even like a 2B. We have different depths within our charcoals just like we do pencils, and that makes it easier to get those darks and lights like you would want if you were going to do a pencil drawing. Now we know we can press hard, we can overlap to get darker marks, and if we we press lighter, fade out our pencil lines, that's going to get us that dark to light contrast. We can do that same thing with charcoals. I'm going to kind of show you how to do charcoals, and then I'm going to show you how to do white charcoal. So I'm taking advantage of the time my baby is sleeping right now. Got my other two doing some iPad educational learning, so you get to learn right now too. So this is my HB middle of the line charcoal pencil. I'm going to do the same thing. I can overlap or go over the same spot numerous times. I can press hard, and I'm going to start picking up this pencil in order to fade it out. I'm also like allowing my pencil, dragging it so it's not overlapping as much. And that's where I'm going to get that dark to light. Now, charcoals, just like chalks, they kind of have like a dustiness to them. They can smear and smudge a little bit easier than like what a pencil can. Okay, a pencil still can smudge too. This is actually, your sketchbook paper is nice drawing paper. It's a soft drawing paper. I'm going to use what's called these blending stumps. It's literally like paper rolled up. And what you do is you use them like this. And the nice thing is you can use it with white charcoal too. And it's going to help kind of smoothen those lines. Now, sometimes I always teach you in Art 1, like, try to blend without having to smudge it, okay? Because if you can use your pencil to blend itself, if you can use different lines and going in different directions, we call that cross-hatching, then you can make sure that you basically get a better blended look, even if you do want to smooth it. A lot of times if we're going to do skin tones, I tell people make sure you smooth these lines, because then like very specific lines like hair, like eyebrows or eyelashes, or even like the edge of an eye to like the white of an eye, like the eyelid to the eyeball, that's all going to stick apart more if we can have that darker fading. Let's say you're like, well, I don't have a blending stuff at home. You know what works pretty good? A Q-tip. Okay. Maybe not quite as smooth because, you know, this is not as compressed, but it still does a pretty darn good job. It probably lifts off more of the charcoal than what a blending stump does, but still, you know, beggars can't be choosers. When we're at home and we have to use the resources we can. If you have a blending stump, to get rid of all of that stuff you just put on that paper, you use a piece of sandpaper, and then you can just rub it off. Now you might be going, who in the heck would have a blending stump at home? If for some reason you've ever bought yourself a set of pencils, like drawing pencils, it maybe came with a blending stump. It doesn't always, but just wanted you to know that exists. Now, how would you use charcoal? My advanced art kids were doing a project called the Memory Project, where we create portraits for people that are generally living in orphanages in a different country, and I always volunteer to do one as well. Usually I do like a teacher or a caregiver to these students, and this year they said, would you be willing to do like a disabled person? And I said, absolutely. So I have the person drawn. This is what he looks like. This person is from Russia. Okay, so, and I really don't know much information about him. I know he likes green. My goal here, my concept of what I plan on doing, is to use the charcoal pencil and to add value to the face, and then I'm going to do some greens and watercolor in the background. So that watercolor will be another day. So this is his picture. You can see what I tried to do is I try to map out where some like darks and lights are, and overall his skin tones are pretty light. At first when I put that charcoal on, it's going to seem pretty dark, but I'm going to start kind of in these dark areas, fade it out quickly, and then I'm going to show you how you can use an eraser as a tool. Now, I actually grabbed like a block eraser. Sometimes I use this for bigger areas, but I'm also going to use this. This is an eraser that we have in the art room that I would have showed you in person, but it's an eraser pencil, which means this is an eraser, not a pencil. You sharpen it in the sharpener like a pencil, and then this helps you sweep away your little extra stuff. It's kind of cool. Interesting, huh? So, little tools that make life easier. I'm going to start, I think, right in here. Usually, the company that we do this for is called the Memory Project, like I told you about. And they tell us, like, please, like, project this image. Try to get this person to look as much like as they can. And then you can use your artistic license to do some things, like, for example, if somebody had like a blemish, we would purposely we would try to take that blemish away for them, just like how you or I would want. If they, if the background is busy, you can use your artistic license to make the background like kind of fun, or that type of a thing. So, and he has some facial hair, which I'm gonna do after I get my skin tones kind of done and blended. We have this area where his cheek and chin is coming up and meeting his neck. So I am kind of just looking at all this, making some definitions. Now, if I was smart, because I am right-handed, I would work left to right. But unfortunately for me, I personally work a little better going dark to light. And this is my darkest area. They have a picture where we have some good contrast, some medium tones, dark tones, and some really light tones. So I just need to be careful as I work and maybe put a piece of paper down here while I add some pencil or some charcoal over there so I don't make a huge mess. Okay, so I kind of defining this side, and basically just like a pencil, I would go dark, and I'm going to start fading this out and kind of go into a middle tone. Hey Dawson, you be a little quiet, buddy. Dawson's making videos on the iPad of himself right now, so when these kids get the chance, they don't often get the chance to be on devices, and when they do, I generally have about 14 million more pictures than what I started with. I keep it interesting. So a lot of times I bring these colors out, just kind of, or these values out a little bit. It's really important, no matter what you're drawing, to try to move your pencil or even your paintbrush if you're painting, or your white charcoal if you're doing white charcoal, in the direction of like the face. So I'm not gonna, like, I know that this area curves around like this, right? Like we can feel that in our cheekbone. It comes down and it comes around, same with this area. So I'm not gonna go straight up and down in this area because I know it's more of a curve. That's gonna help me have some realism. So I'm just gonna do a little bit more of this. This is like, and I would literally show you this charcoal stuff in person. And then I'm gonna jump to the white charcoal and kind of show you how you can go about that. So this is gonna blend out pretty fast because I didn't bring that pencil mark out there any farther. Get rid of that. And I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna show you how to use your eraser as a tool. I think especially when we're using charcoals, white charcoals, black charcoals, we have, and even our pencil, we have to use our eraser as a tool. So I'm gonna naturally, where I don't have that charcoal, I'm gonna naturally keep some of these dark spots, but I need to get a little bit better blending. Now, I can use a little force with this blending stump or with your Q-tip or your finger or a Kleenex. Any of those things work to try to really get those lines blended out. I might even go like in a different direction and then fade that out. I think people naturally think that, no, this is, I know, but this is Mommy's project. I'll get you some paper in a sec, okay? I got some helpers here today. I'm gonna work on kind of getting things smooth. And then, okay, hang on. And then what I was saying earlier is I can go and like look at my highlights. And I literally use this tool like it's a pencil but in reverse. Meaning like I will take this and I will lightly kind of draw the highlights in. But I'll go pretty light on the edges so that I make sure I don't like erase like a hard edge. Okay, and then I can kind of work on getting those. So I will keep you tuned in with how this goes. I have a lot of work to do on this guy. I need to get these guys in the mail at the end of next week. Let's hope I can still mail them. Who knows with our world. But I would kind of work on this and work on blending those places out, those areas, and keep layering darks and lights. And this is kind of a process. So you can see we just have the very beginnings of this darker area, and I will keep working on that. So that's kind of black charcoal. Now we talked a little bit about what black charcoal looks like in class. Okay, so for my black paper, what you would do, you would take your pencil, and what should I draw on here? How about like a coffee cup?
Yeah, coffee cup.
A coffee cup. So I would use my pencil to draw with my white charcoal.
And then a coffee cup.
And draw a coffee cup.
Coffee cup. Yay. Da. Another.
Okay, so I have my coffee cup here. It might be hard for you to see. And then what I want to do when I'm doing white charcoals, I'm thinking, where are the highlights? So I'm going to treat this like my highlight is hitting over here. This is becoming more of a shadowed area. And we talked about how you can there's different ways to go about this with your white charcoal. You can either use the black charcoal too. It will give you some gray tones, which is fine. I always think it's fine as long as you are consistent. Or you can use just the like white with like blending it out like this, and then using like your eraser to get those darker areas back in there, just like we use the eraser to get the highlights. You're actually using the eraser to get the shadows. So notice how this would be like kind of a flatter spot I have where this is like coming in and then going back out. But as I come here, I'm going to start bringing those lines like around like this so that it looks like it's like rounded in that area. It's kind of a little visual check that we want to do. But here I'm going to have it where it's more straight up and down.
Where is this?
That's a brush.
No.
Well, it's
this can go something and this can pick something. Where is this?
So, and then this is how you would kind of add your... That's you don't.
It's a pencil and
I know, but...
paint in there.
Okay. So what you would do, same concept, you could use like a Q-tip. You could blend things out, get them smooth. And then you can always layer in more white. That's it, John. Okay, you guys were doing animals. You would be able to capture a lot of the details. It's obviously a very simple image. But then I'd go back in and layer more. I could put in, you know, some little details or like textures that I might see. The biggest trick would be, I would say, like making sure that you are truly like looking at your object or at a picture of an object. Like I'm looking right now at a coffee cup and I'm seeing like, oh, I'm picking up like some like light sources, like the light is hitting it, and that's kind of a cool feature. So I might put those back in with my white charcoal.
Mommy, can you say okay twice? Get your pencil and then towel with the coffee cup.
Yeah, Dawson says, okay, class, get your pencil and draw with the coffee cup. So earlier when I was talking about like blending out some like plain areas so that little details like hair could stand out, that's a good thing to do like right now, like blending that out this way, this handle, like where that handle edge is, that can stick out even more. Dos, can I see that actually? Thank you. And then if you wanted to, if you're like, oh, I put too much here, I need to cast a little bit of a shadow there, this is where you can still use that eraser on the white charcoal. Now, white charcoal, I mean, it is different than chalk, but it's not tons different than chalk. Like, think of the white chalk you would have in your home. If you have like a chalkboard, you might actually have some actually like white chalk. But also if you have siblings, cousins, maybe even nieces or nephews that come to your house, you potentially would have like sidewalk chalk, white chalk, or colored chalk you could use here, and just play around with it. It could be on black paper, it could be on white paper with colored chalk, but you can have a lot of fun with this, just kind of playing around with it, practicing these techniques. I realize you guys don't have the black paper that we are going to use for this project, but if you have a piece of black construction paper, or you have the means to, you know, have somebody go grab you something, or like I said, just white paper is good. So play around with your white charcoal or your regular charcoal or your sidewalk chalk or whatever you have, and try to create something fun today.